I'm Francesca Maxime.
And I'm Matt McClure, and this is Currents.
Meet the women pitching in to help feed a neighborhood.
Their availability, they're the ones that are involved in the community either through their children, the need to nurture and to share.
Wrapping up the year of St. Paul.
But to really study him, to learn from him, about him.
And watch out, Michelangelo, you've got some competition on Long Island. Good evening. The most recent government statistics show that about 1 in 4 of us do it. We volunteer. But if you think it's equally divided between men and women, think again.
Well, women tend to volunteer at a higher rate than men, as our Nathalia Ortiz discovered when she visited one parish in Queens.
My name is Lourdes Lapola, and I work at St. Mary's Pantry as coordinator along with the other ladies here.
In the corporate world, men are often at the top of the leadership ladder. But when it comes to charitable organizations, there's a place in Woodside where the reins are in different hands, and that place is St. Mary's Food Pantry.
What some people may not realize is that the majority of people who volunteer at this food pantry are women.
You know, women, I think, are people who feel the call that Christ gave to take care of the poor. Perhaps more than men do. Men are out in the world. Women are people who feel more, and they know the difficulties that people are in.
Father Moynihan says he's not the only one who recognizes the impact of women in the community.
If you talk to any parish priest, they will tell you that if there's something that you can't do, just look particularly helpless and some good woman will come along and do it for you.
Why do you think most of the volunteers here are women?
Our volunteers are primarily women because of their availability. They're the ones that are involved in the community either through their children. They come together in that manner, and I think the need to nurture and to share. The men that give do so more quietly, and I think this might be too complicated. Although other pantries do have more men involved.
According to Father Moynihan, this phenomena goes back further than what some might realize.
Women in the church, and if you look at the women that appear in the scriptures, they all exhibit an extraordinary nobility. And I think that you see that nobility coming through in present-day women.
Lapola believes that it's past experience that inspires many women to nurture beyond their homes.
Or you've experienced that need as a young mother trying to figure out how to stretch a dollar or how to make something function well, and you give.
Do you think that these women are appreciated in society and in the church?
Not enough. Not enough. I think we owe great debt to them, and quite often there are those people whose praises should be sung more loudly, and they're not sung.
At St. Mary's, a chorus of appreciation rings loudly.
Here in our parish, certainly the response to the poor has been borne by our women, and I appreciate it, I know the poor appreciate it, and I know that God does too.
What a great group of women. Well, we have much more about food pantries in our area on our website. Just head over to netny.net/currents and stay tuned. The day's headlines are just ahead.
And closing out the year of St. Paul.
We have an actor usually get up there and read an entire letter of Paul, and then we do kind of exegetical analysis of it and have people respond to it.
Welcome back to Currents. I'm Matt McClure.
And I'm Francesca Maxime. Later in the show, a journey through the Bible. Turning now to today's headlines, a new seminary rector on Huntington, Long Island. And it's a Brooklyn priest. Bishop William Murphy of Rockville Center has chosen Monsignor Peter Vicari as the new head of the Seminary of the Immaculate Conception. Monsignor Vicari has been a member of the seminary's faculty since 1988. And Pope Benedict has a message for those already ordained, as we now hear from Rome Reports.
During his general audience, the Pope reminded pilgrims that the Year for Priests, inaugurated last Friday, has the objective of helping priests renew their desire for holiness, which is central to the effectiveness of their ministry.
Mrs. Year for Priests help all priests to grow towards the spiritual perfection essential to the effectiveness of their ministry, and enables the faithful to appreciate more fully the great gift of grace which the priesthood is for priests themselves, for the Church, and for our world.
With the close of the Pauline year and the start of the Year for Priests, the Pope invited priests to follow the examples of St. Paul and St. John Vianney, who carried out their ministry living in constant communion with God.
And we have much more on the Year for Priests at our website. That's netny.net/currents.
Washington Archbishop Donald Mural held a prayer service Tuesday with subway workers in the nation's capital. 9 people died in a train crash there on Monday. Mural prayed for those injured as well as emergency personnel who responded to the accident.
Some of Archbishop Mural's colleagues are headed to the Vatican this weekend. The Pope will give a pallium to each bishop who's been appointed head of an archdiocese over the past 12 months. The pallium is a special wool stole that an archbishop wears around his neck when he celebrates Mass.
Catholic University of America is mourning the death of a renowned alumnus. Ed McMahon, best known as Johnny Carson's sidekick and announcer, studied drama at Catholic University, graduating in 1949. The school's president said in a statement that McMahon, quote, took such great pride in his alma mater and rarely missed an opportunity to speak positively about his time here. McMahon died early Tuesday morning in Los Angeles. He was 86 years old. Stay tuned, because when Currents returns, we'll look at some of the upcoming events to commemorate the end of the Pauline year.
The Year of St. Paul is wrapping up. It began at the end of last year and it just zoomed on by.
That's right. And last week I had the chance to sit down with a man whose ministry is based on that of Paul, a Paulist priest. Here with Father Glibert Martinez, who is pastor of the Church of St. Paul the Apostle in Manhattan. Father Gil, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here.
All right. Talking about the Year of Paul, which I'm sure is something that you know quite well, being from the Church of St. Paul the Apostle.
Yes,
First of all, what is the Year of St. Paul?
Well, the Year of St. Paul commemorates the 2000th anniversary of Paul's birth. Pope Benedict declared it in 2007, and we've been celebrating it from the feast, First Vespers on June 28th, which is the vigil of the Feast of Peter and Paul, and it ends on Second Vespers on Monday, June 28th, 29th, I'm sorry. I always get those confused because it's really the 28th, 29th. 29th is the actual feast day of Peter and Paul.
Gotcha.
So it ends in those days.
So it's coming up pretty quickly here.
Yeah, it is. And yeah, the Pope had a particular purpose. He really wanted to get people to visit Paul. I mean, we hear his letters all the time. At the second reading of Mass on Sunday, but to really study him, to learn from him, about him. And most of all, I think, as he says in his announcement for the Year of Paul, to live and die for Christ as Paul did. That really was the purpose of the year. So.
Right. Yeah, that was going to be my next question. Actually, the significance of the year, because I mean, as you said, you hear from Paul all the time, but maybe you don't hear about him quite as much.
Yeah, exactly. There's so much about Paul. He's the most prolific writer in the New Testament. And when we first started this year, one of the things the Pope asked was that we do lectures and studies of Paul. And so we had lectures, and we had scholars from Fordham and other people come in. But a lot of people were saying, you know what, we've read Paul, but the language is confusing often. Peter said that about Paul. He's very confusing. So what we did is we started this program of just reading the entire letter of Paul in an evening. We'll have someone. We have this beautiful high pulpit. It's the mother church of the Paulist Fathers and for preaching. It's this beautiful old pulpit. And we have an actor usually get up there and read an entire letter of Paul, and then we do the kind of exegetical analysis of it and have people respond to it and learn of that. And when you hear Paul in his context and have a chance to reflect on it, it's really powerful because people afterwards are telling me they're starting to feel closer to Paul because of that. So it's really exciting.
That's great. I mean, when you feel closer to someone who was born 2,000 years ago.
It's quite a feat.
It's quite a feat, but it says something about it. Well, okay, now our producer was actually telling me a little bit about this whole indulgence thing and how it relates to the year of St. Paul. Tell me a little bit about what is an indulgence.
Sure. Well, part of the year is that particularly a place named after Paul, like us, and particularly us, the Paulist Fathers, he's our patron. We requested from the Holy See through Cardinal Egan to be a holy place for pilgrimage or a holy place to receive indulgences. So people have been coming. It has to be on the actual feast day or the last Sunday of the month. There's several requirements for that. People have to go to confession, go to Mass and communion, and there's certain prayers you say. There's a prayer to Paul asking for his intercession in the church, and the Hail Mary or prayer to Mary, and the Apostles' Creed. But all that to receive an indulgence. And your question was about indulgences. Yes. So an indulgence really, it has a long history in the church. But what you receive is the remission of any temporal punishment for the living or the dead. And it's kind of hard to explain, I think, because it seems as though that temporal punishment might be, 10 years off purgatory or something like that. But this is a plenary indulgence. It's intended to remove the punishment for a particular sin for a particular person, either living or dead. I think the best way to think about it is at least the way I try to explain it to people, is if you think about a sin that is committed between two people, perhaps an infidelity between a husband and wife, even though they reconcile and they're together again, the effect of the sin remains. I mean, there's always that little bit of distrust, or it takes time to rebuild that. What an indulgence does, it really relies on as Paul VI described it, the inexhaustible mercy of God to remove that punishment, that effect of the sin. So people are asked when they're preparing an indulgence, and their prayer is to carry that person in prayer for whatever they may have committed, because we really don't know. I mean, it's really up to God. It's really kind of relying on God's mercy in that way.
Yeah. Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely,
okay.
Absolutely.
Right.
Now, that being said, about indulgences and as they relate to the year of Paul and your experience.
Yeah.
You said they have a long history with the church. Excuse me, but. Has it been in the past, or even now, maybe a little bit controversial to receive an indulgence?
I think it has in the past, because particularly with partial indulgences, that's when the church would say, you could purchase an indulgence for so many years for a person, but the church would remove that to really kind of get back to the spirituality of it, and it really is about the mercy of God. So we don't know what time is, and it's God's time. So really, the focus is on the effect of the sin. But the other part of it is this trusting in the communion of saints. We can pray for people after they're dead. We pray for them now and ask God to be merciful. And we trust that God will be merciful. But it's our act, our communion with them that I think is the other part of it that kind of sometimes gets lost. Yeah. Indulgences are freely available. If you pray the Stations of the Cross on Fridays, you can receive indulgences. And so there's a lot of different ways. But for the year of Paul, it was focused in communion in conjunction with the celebration of Paul. To live for, die for Christ is to know God's mercy also. So people were asked to pray in that way as well.
All right. Well, very good. Well, before we have to wrap up, just wanted to ask you what events may be going on to commemorate the end of the year of Paul.
Well, we're going to start at Monday, June 29th, 2009, is the conclusion of the year of Paul at Vespers. But we're going to start on Friday, June 26th, with reading the letter of the Colossians, an entire letter We have actors doing that from Lincoln Center. We have some people from Broadway who are composing songs about God's mercy, and we'll be doing that. Then we'll do an exegetical analysis, and we have a reception and a party in the church. It's an amazing event. And then on the next day, on Saturday at Lincoln Center at the Bruno Walter Auditorium, we're going to do the New York premiere of Testimony. It's a movie about John Paul II from Cardinal Givers's book on the same title, Testimony. It's a great movie, but we were able to get the premiere here in New York. Gotcha. And as part of the year. One of John Paul's great refrains was "Do not be not afraid, be not afraid," and in a sense, I think that's the message of Paul: be not afraid to be an apostle, to be proclaimed the word of God.
Well, there's a lot going on, obviously.
Yeah,
We're just out of time.
Oh, I'm sorry. So come. You go to our website and find all the information.
Absolutely, and we'll put all that information on our website.
Oh, that'd be great.
Can go there and we'll link straight to you.
Okay, wonderful.
Well, Father Gill, thank you so much.
Sure, you're welcome.
Here.
Thank you.
Thanks. Father Glibert Martinez there, and as we were just saying, you can head on over to our blog, netny.net/currents. Click on Riding the Wave. I've posted some more information there about all of the events going on at St. Paul the Apostle to wrap up the Pauline year. Well, stay tuned. More Currents just ahead.
A brush with the Bible. How one woman transformed these bare walls.
Every day I had to walk down this hallway, and it was very, very, very vanilla. One side of the hallway was going to be the Old Testament, and the other side was definitely going to be the New Testament.
Well, the Sistene Chapel is probably without much argument from anybody one of the masterpieces, or maybe even the masterpiece of Western art.
Sure is. It's gorgeous. I've seen it in person and it's amazing. But the Vatican may be a little bit too far away for some people. Bohemia, Long Island is probably a bit of an easier trip. At a parish center over there, one woman with no formal training, I might add, has created something that has people of all ages in awe.
I feel that this was totally a guided project. Because I don't have the formal training, I never really researched, if you look costumes and things like that, it's just what I felt was there. I am an artist. I have painted the wall mural here at the parish center of St. John Nepomucene Church in Bohemia, New York. When the parish center converted the 2 classrooms into office space, we moved over here from the priest residence, and every day I had to walk down this hallway, and it was very, very, very vanilla. And I just decided that I was going to present it to the staff, and they liked the idea very much, and we decided to go with it. This took approximately 4 years and 4 months. I started it when my middle daughter was starting college, and I worked on it continuously with really no break. I did it at least once a week. There were some times that I missed a couple of weeks, but I did, pretty much every week, 1 day a week for 4 years and 4 months. The whole process of the mural was, it took really just one section at a time. Basically, the main idea was to do one side of the hallway was going to be the Old Testament, and the other side was definitely going to be the New Testament. Then what I did was I just took out a block in between each classroom, between each door. I would just work at that 25-foot section at a time. And we would sit in a meeting, myself, Father Jim, and Sister Phyllis Esposito, and we would kind of decide which stories that we wanted to tell. We would put in ones that they were covering through the religious ed program so that the kids would be familiar with them, but also introduce other stories that they wouldn't be as familiar with. Basically, the main goal that I wanted was that it would be an interactive tool that they could use. Not only that it looks nice, but if kids would come along and look at the pictures, that they might be interested in the story more. And throughout the whole process, I worked, as I said, a little section at a time. I would go home, figure out what we're doing. I would put it on a small piece of paper first, bring it in, make sure that the design was all approved, and then I would transfer up onto the wall, all in pencil, in a 25-foot section at a time, and then I would paint that 25-foot section. At that time, I was already planning the next section, so it was always an ongoing process.
I understand the Bible more with pictures than words because I'm in first grade and I'm learning to read. I read chapter books sometimes, but I can't read all the pages. Sometimes I have trouble. So I like to look for the hidden words in there, in the pictures, and try to read them because they really blend in with the colors.
I am open to wherever the Spirit leads me artistically. So I do have some little projects that I am working on outside of the church area that one day you never know.
That's just amazing.
I'm equally impressed with that little girl as I am with the artist and the mural. I mean, she's so well-spoken.
So well-spoken, very cute. Of course, maybe not as cute as my niece, but you know.
Well, I mean, yeah, she may pull a quick second, but I mean, what about such an innovative way to be able to, you know, teach as she did, but also just to make it look so much more gorgeous. And I mean, if you have seen the Sistine Chapel, it is quite something.
Yeah.
But if you haven't, that's a pretty good, you know, local version of it.
That's absolutely. And, you know, like the little girl was saying, you know, some people learn better with pictures than they do with words. And I happen to be a very visual person. Right. And so that, I think, would be a great learning tool for a lot of people.
Absolutely. And I mean, really, all her devotion, all the stenciling, the planning. She said 4 years. That's really a long time. Talk about, you know, her form of ministry herself. I mean, that's, it's quite incredible and so colorful.
I can't even draw a stick man. So
me neither.
You know, I have no visual artistic ability.
Art class, not my forte.
That's right. So we won't be featuring any of our art here on the show. That's pretty much determined. But coming up on tomorrow's show, we'll be honoring excellence, meeting some of those honored at the Diocese's annual Humanitarian Awards Dinner. None of our artwork was given any kind of award. Also tomorrow, we'll honor one of our own with the formal dedication of this beautiful new studio.
Yeah, we hope you come by for that. And thank you so much for tuning in to this edition of Currents. And remember, we are always online at netny.net/currents. And we'd also like to hear from you. Feel free to talk to us. You can send us an email at dropusaline@currentsny.net. Thank you so much for watching tonight. I'm Francesca Maxime.
And I'm Matt McClure. Have a great night.